Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your Thursday evening Facebook Live. My name is Sarah Edwards. I come to you live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 to show you a fun new project. I totally messed that up. Hello, everybody. My name is Sarah Edwards. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I come to you guys live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 to show you a fun new project. So my mind is going a million miles an hour. I'm trying to kind of figure in my head how I can redo my Facebook Live area so I can have a little bit more room. I only have a specific amount of room to work with, so that's actually what I was thinking about right before I went live. So I shouldn't think prior to going live because it messes me up. I actually still have all of my pillow gifts sitting over here from showing you guys on Tuesday. I just haven't had a second to tidy up and clean up, but hopefully tomorrow and Saturday I'll be able to do some of that. So good evening. Hopefully you guys had a good day. I left my house at about 5 a.m. this morning and I got home about 5:30-ish this evening. So I knew I was going to have a crazy day. Didn't realize it was going to be that crazy, but it was definitely a long day for me. So as soon as the live is over, I'm going to shower and hit the hay because I have to be up early again tomorrow morning. But meanwhile, we are going to do a fun new card. And if you saw my funny picture yesterday, I really did not use pink on this card, but I really wanted to. And once you see it, I colored the inside of the flowers and I was like, oh, that would be so pretty pink. But I can't do it because I already posted that I didn't do anything pink on this card. So maybe we'll do one of our cards with a little bit of pink, but we'll see. Who knows? Let's point you over so we can get going. Let's make sure we're live on Facebook, which I think we are. We have a storm rolling in, so hopefully it doesn't do any damage while I'm doing the live. Good evening, Linda. Welcome. So this is the card that we did on Tuesday for Tuesday's live. And I wanted to still use this set. I try to use one set for both lives. And I don't know if you can see, but I did color in with the Wink of Stella on this guy. So we'll use a little bit of Wink of Stella on this next card. So this is what is available. It's an online exclusive, I believe. I don't think it's in a catalog. For some reason, that just went out of my brain. But it's called Filled with Fun. And it has a die set that matches. But they just came out with Filled with Cheer. So you can use the wagon dies to cut out the wagon on this set, and the little gems up here, and even the wagon wheel, the dies will cut out. They do not cut out these two images. So I did have to fussy cut this, but it really was not tragic at all to fussy cut. So this is the set that we're going to be playing with. I did this one on Tuesday. And this one, I'm going to bring in these flowers. And that's actually, oh, and the sentiment. The flowers and the sentiment is what we're going to be playing with tonight. So I went ahead and did all of the measurements before I went live, so you don't have to stress about writing them down. But let me pull that in a little bit closer. This is the fun card we're going to be doing. And I used the Daffodil Delight blends to color the inside of the flowers. And oh, you know what? I don't think I brought my berry burst over, but I did think the berry burst would be pretty in there as well. So that's what we're going to be playing with. So let's bring in all of our pieces, and then I will go through all of the measurements for you. Depending on how long it takes us to put this one together, I did prep a couple. So we'll see. There's lots of moving parts and pieces to this card. As you can see, I'm flipping all of these pieces in. Okay, got them all. So we're going to start with our layer 1, which is our card base. It is 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4.25. I'm going to set that aside. I'm just saying these by layers. Layer 2 is 4 by 5.25, and this is Pretty Peacock. Layer number 3 is 3 3/4 by 5, and this is Lost Lagoon. Took me a second. And then our basic whites, this is 3.5 by 4 3/4. So these are all going to get layered together. And then I have a couple extra little layering pieces. So this one is Pretty Peacock, and it is 1 1/4 by 4 1/2. This one is Lost Lagoon, and it's 1 1/2 by 4. And I did the same with the little squares. So this one is 2 1/4. I'm sorry, hold on. Actually, these are the only ones I didn't write down. 2 1/2 square, 2 1/4 inch square, and 2 inch square. That's a lot of measurements, but don't worry, it is all in the description before we went live. So I'm going to start with these 3 pieces right here. So we have our basic white, our Lost Lagoon, and Pretty Peacock. Hopefully I didn't lose you guys before we even got started. I'm going to take the little booger off the end of my glue, and I'm going to start by just adding a little bit of glue to our Pretty Peacock layer, and this is going to get glued down. Let's scooch it over just a smidgen. There we go. And then I'm going to add the Lost Lagoon right beside it. So this is where it actually gets super fun. So as pretty as this looks, I actually think it would be totally doable to leave it like this. We are going to put it inside of our embossing folder, and we're going to emboss this. So I'm going to line it up right on that line that's at the bottom. I'm going to set it down just so I can bring in my machine. I do have the large machine just because this is a larger die or a larger embossing folder, so it won't fit through the mini. But for Facebook Lives, I do like to use my mini. So we're going to grab our folder, lay it in, and we're going to take plate number 4 and run it through. And you want to make sure not to use too much glue when you're gluing those strips down, because you don't want it to eke out once you smash it together in the embossing folder. But you see how that just gives it a little extra touch? And you don't ever have to worry about these guys coming off. Even if you're using our green glue, they're not going to come off, but I love the way that looks. So now we can just layer these guys together. It's a super easy card, but there's lots of layers. And you can make it where there's not as many. I just was going a little crazy. There's this. We can glue this one down. Just like that. Hello, Marie, welcome. And before we glue this down to our card base, I actually brought in the Pretty Peacock in gold ribbon. So I'm just going to attach this with a couple mini glue dots. And I like to keep my ribbon on the spool just so I don't have any waste. Good evening, Peggy. Welcome. Grab your paper snips and snip this off. And put another mini glue dot on that side. And then make sure it's nice and even. There we go. So now we can glue this to our card base and we can start coloring or stamping and coloring. And I always like to put a little smidgen of glue on the ribbon. Okay, that part of it is done. Now we can start working on these three squares. We're going to push these 2 up to the side for just a hot second. We're going to do a little stamping. I brought in my silicone mat. Took me a second to remember what that was called, just because the image is wider than my piece of cardstock that I'm using, and I don't want to mess up my work surface. So I'm just going to ink this up, and then, I don't know if I got the bottom, let's do that again. And I'm just going to come in and stamp the flowers right at the bottom. Perfect. Let me put the lid on that so I don't accidentally put my finger in there. So we can get rid of that. And I'm just going to bring this in so I can color on it. So I brought in Granny Apple Green, and this is the dark for the leaves. I did bring in Dark Daffodil Delight, and I think I used the light version of all of these. I don't think I used the darks. Let me just make sure. Dark and dark. Yes, we don't need those. We're just going to use the light. So I'm just going to come in and color the top in light Pretty Peacock, and then I'm going to color the bottom ones in the light Lost Lagoon. And if you're not familiar with our blends, they do bleed through the back of our cardstock. I've never had it bleed through bad enough where it marked up my table, but I don't want to take the chance. So that's why I like to always put something on the inside. And even if you're going to color on your envelopes, put a piece of paper inside your envelope while you color, and it will help not bleed through the entire envelope because the envelopes are a lot thinner than our cardstock. So just a couple little tips as I'm trying to talk and color at the same time. But I am so grateful you guys are still joining me, even though I'm not using any pink in any of this card. I know it's really hard for me not to use anything pink. But having a variety of stuff is okay as well. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the light Lost Lagoon, and I'm just going to color in the bottom flowers. And these two colors together are absolutely gorgeous. I really don't know if the videos do it justice, but these colors blend so well. So almost done with the flowers. And there's a little guy over here in the corner. We don't want to forget him or her. Perfect. Then I'm going to grab my Granny Apple Green. I like to color with the thicker side, but when I was doing this yesterday, my thicker side of my Granny Apple Green is pretty hammered, but there's still ink in it, so that's why I'm using the back side. One of the things I wanted to get done at the retreat, and I didn't, I wanted to go through all my blends to see what colors I needed, what colors were dried out, and to label them, and I didn't get it done. That's okay. There's the next retreat. Oh, speaking of next retreat, I did send out the email for the fall retreat. We're doing 2 weekends in a row. So if you are not on my email list, that's the best way to get information. There's a link to sign up for that as well. And I did post the link for the retreats before I went live. Okay, so all that coloring is done. So now we're going to bring back in our little mat because we are going to stamp the sentiment. So the sentiment is obviously too long for this small piece. So what I did is I just inked up half at a time. Good evening, Heather. Welcome. I just looked up and saw that you commented. So I'm going to ink up You Make My first. Hopefully you guys can see this. So I'm just inking up half. And I'm going to stamp this right up top. There we go. And I'm going to wipe it off because some of the Y is going to get on the white cardstock. Now I'm going to ink up the other half where the heart blooms. And this is going to go right underneath. There we go. So yes, I am a firm believer in cutting your stamp sets. I know many of you might fall out of your chair with me saying that, but this one was so easy to mask off per se, even though I didn't really mask it, that I didn't cut the stamp set in half. But I am known to do that. And they are your stamp sets, so you can if you want to. You see what I'm talking about, how it kind of bleeds through a little bit? It has never gotten on my work surface, but I don't want to take the chance. So we're going to glue this down to the Lost Lagoon. This one is going to go down to the Pretty Peacock. There we go. I'm going to flip it over and grab my dimensionals. And I have one single guy there, so we're going to put him in the center since he's a big guy. And 4 in the corners is definitely overkill, but that's okay. That's what we're going to do. Peel off the backing. Bring in our card base. And I want a smidgen of the white showing through on the right-hand side. So I'm kind of just not really centered, but I just want enough of the white and the Lost Lagoon on that side. Hello, Peyton. Hello, little Carson. That's my daughter and my grandson. Welcome. So now I'm just going to tie a bow. We actually were playing phone tag today. I called her, she didn't answer, and then she called me and I couldn't answer. So maybe we'll meet up after the live. Okay, so there's my bow. I know, Heather, the layer look is very pretty. I just want to banner that edge. Let's put a mini glue dots. And I really debated on where to put the bow. I kind of thought it looked pretty down here, and I thought it kind of looked cool, kind of sideways. In the middle, it kind of covers up the sentiment, so you really couldn't. But I really think you could put the bow anywhere. But I'm just going to tack it onto the side because that's what I did for the last one. And then, last but not least, we need to put some of this Frank's Red Hot Sauce on our flowers. If you're young, you probably don't know that commercial, but if you're older like us, you do. So you get what I'm saying. So Wink of Stella is your best friends. Okay, there we go. There is your fun and pretty card. Okay, let's do one more. Just in case you are logging on, you can see from start to finish. I may not color it all, and I should have done these ahead of time, but I didn't because I was in a hurry. And I'm actually glad we prepped what we did. We'll at least get the embossing taken care of. So we need our basic white piece, and we need our 2 strips of cardstock. So I just put a smidgen. I actually probably did overkill on the glue. You don't need much because you are embossing it, so it's going to really adhere. And also, if you have a love-hate relationship with this glue, it means you're using too much. So less is more when it comes to using our Tombow. Here's that. Let's bring in, and I'm surprised my hip didn't knock over the embossing machine because it's literally teetering on the chair beside me. So if you hear a big old crash, that's what it is. So I'm going to line up the bottom to this line right in the embossing folder. This means it's going to be straight. Run this through. Grab the embossing folder. Let me set this on the floor so it doesn't crash and fall on my foot. that would not be fun. Okay, there's this guy, so let's glue him to our layering pieces. And this ribbon, I got it because I was going to use it for one of the retreat make and takes, but then I didn't end up using it. And I really regret it because it is absolutely gorgeous. So if you haven't gotten the ribbon, I definitely highly recommend it. There's that. Let's tie a bow really quick. And then the one side will already have the banner. See, that side already is bannered because I just tied the other bow. So we're going, hopefully it's not going to be too big. Nope, I think that's good. Now we can glue this down. Just one side and then just trim off this. And don't worry, I know I didn't go over the measurements doing this second card. I did put all of them except the little squares. I did forget the squares. But it's 2.5 inch square, 2.25 inch square, and 2 inch square. So those are pretty easy to remember. And you can just rewatch the video. But could you imagine this card done in pink or purple? Gorgeous. There we go. We can set that aside to dry. We'll do a little bit of stamping and then I'll probably color later. I don't have my watch on me, so I'm not entirely sure what time it is, if we are even close to I try to stick about 30 minutes. That's my goal. So I try not to chit chat too much in the beginning. I try to get to the point and start crafting. Let's make sure my sentiment is cleaned off really well. So I'm going to ink up half. You can tape this off if you're more comfortable with masking. You make my, oops, oh crap. Dang Skippy, look what I did. That's okay. We will just grab a sponge dauber and sponge the edges of this guy. So do as I say, not as I do. There's that. And if you don't have a sponge dauber handy, a lot of people just kind of rub this on their pad. I do like the sponge dauber look a little bit better because you get more of it. But this is going to work for now. Nobody needs to know that I accidentally dropped my paper in the ink pad. And you know what? It's a handmade card. Okay, that ink is wet, so now it's going to be all over my fingers. At least the first one turned out, right? Okay, we're going to let that sit and dry for a hot second. And we'll put some dimensionals on this. So we're going to do one in each corner and one in the center. And remember, just kind of offset it a little bit so you can get some of that white. And we can pick this up carefully and attach. And I'll color in the flowers later. I just wanted you guys to see, if you're just logging on, how to put this together. And I think that covers it up. Well, it does cover up the smudge, but I'm still going to put it right here. Nobody's going to know but us who watch the video that I Dropped it. Okay, there you go. Let me get all of this out of the way and I will bring the cards back in. So these are the ones that I did today, and here is the one using the same sets. Well, it's the same dies and the new Christmas set that's out. So they're super fun, different, and hopefully I have inspired you to do some crafting. That's what all of this is about. So if you haven't gotten out into your craft room today, the night is still young. You still have time. It's not young for me. I'm going in, taking a shower, and heading to bed because I have to be up early for work tomorrow. But the night is still young if you don't have to work tomorrow. Or if you are at work, you can still craft maybe. Anyway, if you need any help with ordering any of the products that I used today, definitely feel free to reach out. If not, I will see everybody on Tuesday for another live. Have a great evening and we will chat soon. Bye-bye.